Have you ever found yourself thinking, it's better to let this go, it's not worth the argument, I'm above this? How often have you swallowed the right words, the necessary response, the screams trapped in your throat, all to avoid confrontation? Here's something painful to acknowledge. Every time you do this, you abandon yourself. We exist in a society that worships superficial peace. From childhood, we're conditioned to believe that avoiding confrontation signals maturity, that politeness means silence when something disturbs us, that choosing quiet over conflict demonstrates superiority. This is fundamentally false. Nietzsche perceived this with devastating clarity. He recognized that much of what we consider virtue is merely disguised fear. Fear of confrontation, fear of losing love or approval, fear of appearing difficult, aggressive, or selfish. As long as you live to please others and dodge conflicts, you'll remain trapped, swallowing your own rage. The philosopher identified this as slave morality, a value system created by the powerless, by the resentful, by those who couldn't respond effectively, so they learned to hide behind facades of humility and submission. Tragically, this has become normalized behavior. Today, you believe you're being virtuous when you're actually allowing yourself to be controlled. Consider this. How many injustices have you endured to preserve harmony? How often have you remained silent when you needed to speak? How frequently have you absorbed insults, humiliations, and disrespect, all for the sake of peace? I'm not suggesting you should fight everyone constantly. This is about reclaiming your right to exist with dignity. If you don't learn to face conflict, it will consume you from within. Resentment accumulates, and eventually, you'll reach your breaking point, either exploding destructively or sinking into apathy, convinced that goodness equals harmlessness. Nietzsche offers an escape route, a philosophy that invites you to shatter this cycle of submission, showing how conflict can become a path to liberation rather than an enemy. If you're finding value in this content, please subscribe to Beyond the Mind and hit that notification bell. We're building a community of people ready to face uncomfortable truths. To understand your fear of conflict, you must examine the depths of human moral history. On the Genealogy of Morals, Nietzsche reveals a brutal truth. The values you hold today didn't emerge from nobility of spirit, but from powerlessness, resentment, and the weak's need to defend against the strong. Imagine an era when strength was law. Noble warriors didn't apologize for their will to power. They dominated, imposed boundaries, sought world affirmation. Their morality was active and affirmative. Good reflected strength, courage, greatness, self-sufficiency. But others existed, the weak, the resentful. Unable to succeed in power games, lacking strength to impose their will, they had one remaining resource: inverting the game entirely. They created new morality based on value reversal. What was once good, strength, pride, courage, became evil, sinful. What was once weakness, submission, obedience, humility, was elevated to virtue. This wasn't genuine goodness, but necessity, an act of survival. Nietzsche calls this slave morality. Morality created not from vibrant life, but from life's denial, glorifying retreat, renunciation, passivity as superior choices when they're actually unconscious defenses against inability to act. This morality remains alive today. It shaped your education, exists in childhood phrases. Don't respond, don't argue, be nice, don't cause trouble. You were conditioned to associate confrontation with evil and submission with virtue. Every time you remain silent, bow your head, or avoid conflict for harmony's appearance, slave morality governs you. This doesn't mean you're naturally weak. You were taught to believe that being strong, asserting your will, imposing limits would be wrong. You were indoctrinated to believe goodness equals harmlessness. The result? Psychological patterns trapping millions. Fear of confrontation, fear of taking stands, fear of claiming power. You convince yourself that avoiding conflicts shows maturity when fear actually paralyzes you. The more you flee, the stronger slave morality becomes within you. Now that you understand how slave morality shaped your fear of confrontation, let's examine one of its most corrosive feelings: resentment. Nietzsche masterfully dissected the human soul, particularly when describing resentment's workings. Resentment arises when vital impulses, desires to act, assert oneself, impose one's will, become frustrated and cannot manifest. The energy doesn't disappear, it turns inward. Instead of transforming into action, it becomes poison. The resentful person wants to act but cannot, wants to confront aggressors but doesn't dare, wants to claim space but fears consequences. They repress this force and construct moral narratives justifying their passivity. I'm better because I don't react. I'm nobler because I forgive. I'm superior because I don't stoop to arguing. This is deception. Behind moral superiority discourse lies unacknowledged anger, unprocessed frustration, powerlessness that corrupts the soul. You feel it even if you won't admit it. Every time you remain silent facing offense, then spend hours ruminating on what you could have said. That's resentment. When you see someone abusing your goodwill and instead of asserting yourself, you accumulate bitterness. That's resentment. When you pretend peace while feeling growing bitterness for not defending boundaries, that's resentment. Nietzsche warns, the resentful person isn't just a victim, but an accomplice to their imprisonment. By not confronting necessary conflict, you feed internal poison that eventually destroys you. Resentment creates vicious cycles. The more you flee confrontation, the more resentful you become. The more resentful, the less courage you have to confront, thus slowly sinking into bitterness and self-pity. Most tragically, many become accustomed to this condition, defining their identity around it. They become voluntary martyrs, proud of supposed goodness when they're actually prisoners of fear. Nietzsche wasn't content merely diagnosing soul diseases. He sought paths to overcome them. The key to breaking free lies in one of his most powerful concepts: the will to power. This concept has been greatly misunderstood. Some reduce it to desire for domination over others, a gross error. When Nietzsche speaks of will to power, he means something deeper: life's fundamental drive. Everything living wants to expand, assert itself, grow, surpass its limits. This is will to power, the impulse driving seeds to break through Earth, cubs to explore worlds, humans to create, conquer, transcend. Slave morality tries suffocating this will, saying, don't assert desires, don't stand out, don't confront, don't be dangerous. It wants you confined to small, harmless, controllable spaces. When you repress will to power, it doesn't disappear. It corrupts, turning against you. Then resentment, passivity, and self-pity arise. Recovering will to power means reconnecting with that vital force you were taught to fear. It means abandoning the illusion that virtue lies in submission, accepting that life is conflict, and that conscious confrontation is life affirmation, not gratuitous violence. How do you do this? First, recognize that fear of conflict isn't virtue. It's inherited vice you must overcome. Second, start taking stands in small things. Learn to say no, set boundaries, Reclaim the right to exist fully. Third, cultivate courage to face life's inevitable conflicts with awareness and presence, not to destroy others, but to assert yourself in the world. Will to power isn't about oppressing, it's about ceasing to be oppressed. It's living with integrity, straight spine, free soul. Nietzsche provided a symbolic map for inner transformation through the three metamorphoses of spirit: camel, lion, and child. The camel represents spirit carrying burdens, bending under others' expectations, social norms, moral obligations imposed by culture venerating passivity. You must be obedient, humble, swallow anger, avoid confrontation. The camel accepts everything, strong in enduring ability, but this strength is sterile, resignation's strength, not creation's. Worse, the camel takes pride in suffering. The more it submits, the more virtuous it believes itself. Most people live in this stage, but there comes a moment when camel spirit revolts, no longer bearing the weight of carried lies. It desires freedom, self-assertion, needing to become a lion. The lion embodies spirit learning to say no to external impositions, slave morality, diminishing social roles. The lion embodies awakened will to power, not seeking destruction for destruction's sake, but struggling for space, inner territory for authentic existence. To conquer this space, the lion must face the greatest dragon, thou shalt. This dragon shines with 1,000 scales, each bearing commandments. Thou shalt be meek, submissive, avoid conflict. Bringing down this dragon requires courage, facing disapproving looks, criticism, rejection, dealing with internalized childhood guilt. This is necessary struggle because only learning genuine conscious no frees you from submission's prison. Then comes final metamorphosis, the child. The child represents reborn spirit, free from camel's weight, free from lion's defensive needs. Now spirit is creative, no longer living reactively but creatively. It creates own values, chooses where to submit and rebel, lives lightly, authentically, joyfully. At this stage, conflict ceases being battlefield, becoming creation space. You no longer seek to defeat others, but assert yourself according to who you truly are. Now understanding the transformation process, it's time to grasp what's truly at stake. Nietzsche challenges us with one of his most provocative ideas: becoming who you are. In Exe Homo, he presents this formula as invitation and warning because becoming who you are isn't natural, spontaneous, or automatic. It's a struggle. The first battle is against fear of conflict. Have you considered how much of your life you live for others? How often have you chosen paths pleasing parents, partners, friends, bosses, even when that wasn't what you truly wanted? How many times have you swallowed truth to avoid discomfort? Nietzsche reveals this as existence's most insidious trap. Most people never become who they are, spending lives playing roles, wearing masks, adjusting to expectations, trying to be what they believe they should be. There's a brutal price for false harmony. Each time you suppress true will, part of you dies. Each avoided important conflict dilutes identity further. Each yes when you wanted no moves you farther from who you really are. Nietzsche understood that fear of conflict isn't just behavioral, it's existential obstacle. Conflict is where identity is forged. In clashing with world, others, ideas, you discover what you truly value, believe, desire. Without conflict, there's no self-knowledge. Without self-knowledge, no authenticity. Without authenticity, no full life, just empty theater. Therefore, becoming who you are requires courage to face necessary confrontation, saying no to others' expectations, imposed roles, your own tendency to adapt for acceptance. If this message resonates with you, please like this video and share it with someone who needs to hear this truth. Beyond the Mind is here to challenge conventional thinking and help you discover your authentic self. Now you must face a truth many prefer avoiding. Your silence has a price, and it's not small. How many times have you told yourself staying silent was wisest, that fighting wasn't worth it, that it wouldn't change anything, that it was better to let it go? How often have you swallowed humiliations, disrespect, small and large abuses, all for supposed harmony's sake? Here's reality. Every time you choose silence facing injustice, you're not neutral. You're reinforcing oppressive behavior. You're teaching the world you accept being treated this way, allowing patterns of domination, abuse, and disrespect to continue existing in your life and society. Nietzsche saw this clearly. He knew morality built on fear doesn't lead to peace. It leads to spirit degeneration. When you remain silent to avoid conflict, you don't build better life. You build a tomb for your will. Don't be deceived. The world notices. People sense when you're afraid to assert yourself, and those acting in bad faith exploit it. The silence you think protects actually exposes you. Every unspoken boundary invites someone to cross it. Every unspoken truth allows lies to take hold. Nietzsche teaches that authentic life requires courage. Courage isn't fear's absence. It's willingness to act despite fear's presence. Necessary conflict is where integrity asserts itself, where you show yourself and the world you have backbone, values, limits. Next time the impulse to stay silent arises, ask yourself, am I being wise or just cowardly? This question, asked honestly, can change your life. Remember, becoming who you are doesn't happen in complacent silence. It happens in courageous affirmation of your existence, in necessary confrontation, in inevitable conflict. You weren't made to be an eternal camel carrying others' burdens. You have within you the lion and the child. You have strength to say no and creativity to build a life that's truly yours. But this requires action, and it requires starting now. You have the power to break free from the chains of submission and step into your authentic self. The path isn't comfortable, but it's the only way to live with true integrity and freedom.